Commander Tae-jin stood on the bridge of the VDS Starfall, his yellow eyes scanning the star charts displayed on the main screen. The Valerian Defense Fleet had ruled this sector of space for over 300 years. No enemy had ever challenged their power and lived to tell about it. His scaled hands moved across the control panel with practiced ease. The natural armor on his arms gleamed under the bridge lights. Like all Valerians, Tae-jin was built for war. His people had thick protective scales, sharp claws, and reflexes faster than most known species. They were perfect warriors. "Commander," called out Navigator Bong-soo from his station, "we have an unknown contact on long-range sensors." Tae-jin turned his massive head toward the young officer. "Size and classification?" "Medium-sized vessel, sir. Configuration unknown. It appears to be made of simple metal alloys. Energy signature is very low." A slow smile spread across Tae-jin's reptilian features. Another primitive species had wandered into Valerian space. This would be easy. "Signal the fleet. We approach in standard formation. Activate first contact protocols." The Starfall and her escort ships moved toward the strange vessel. Tae-jin had done this hundreds of times before. First, they would demand surrender. Then, if the aliens were smart, they would submit to Valerian rule. If they were stupid, they would fight and be destroyed quickly. As they got closer, the alien ship came into full view on the screen. It looked crude and ugly compared to Valerian ships. Where Valerian vessels were sleek and covered with energy shields, this thing looked like it was built in a scrapyard. Tae-jin almost felt sorry for whoever was inside. "Sir," Communications Officer Yun-ho announced, "the alien vessel is responding to our hail." "Put it through," Tae-jin ordered, settling into his command chair. The screen flickered and suddenly a face appeared that made several bridge officers step back in shock. The creature was pale and soft-looking, with strange hair on top of its head and small, weak-looking eyes. It had no visible armor, no claws, no natural weapons at all. "This is Captain Do-hyun of the Earth vessel Harmony," the creature said in perfect galactic standard. "We request permission to speak with your commanding officer." Tae-jin was impressed despite himself. The creature spoke their language flawlessly. "I am Commander Tae-jin of the Valerian Defense Fleet. You have entered our territory without permission." The human captain smiled, showing small, flat teeth. Nothing like the sharp fangs of a proper predator. "We apologize for the intrusion, Commander. We are explorers from Earth, seeking peaceful contact with other species." "Peaceful contact?" Tae-jin repeated the words with amusement. "What are you called?" "We are humans," Do-hyun replied. "This is our first venture into this region of space." Behind Tae-jin, Tactical Officer Siwon whispered, "Their ship has minimal armor and basic weapons, sir. We could destroy it in seconds." Tae-jin nodded but kept his attention on the screen. Something about the human captain bothered him. The creature looked weak, but there was something in its eyes that didn't match its appearance. A cold calculation that seemed out of place. "Captain Do-hyun," Tae-jin said, "your ship will prepare to be boarded. We must ensure you pose no threat to Valerian interests." The human captain's expression didn't change. "Of course, Commander. We welcome the opportunity to meet in person." An hour later, Tae-jin waited in the main docking bay as the human shuttle approached. A full squad of Valerian Marines stood ready, their plasma rifles charged and their armor gleaming. Whatever these humans were planning, they would find Valerian warriors ready for anything. The shuttle docked with barely a sound. Tae-jin had to admit the humans were good pilots. The airlock opened, and 3 humans stepped out. The first was Captain Do-hyun, still wearing that strange smile. Behind him came a female human introduced as Lieutenant Soo-jin, and a male called Specialist Woo-jin. All 3 were dressed in simple uniforms with no visible weapons or armor. Tae-jin studied them carefully. Up close, they looked even more fragile. Their skin appeared thin and easily damaged. Their limbs seemed weak. Yet there was something about the way they moved that reminded him of hunting predators from his homeworld. "Welcome aboard the Starfall," Tae-jin said, gesturing for them to follow him. "I trust your journey was pleasant." "Very much so," Do-hyun replied, looking around with obvious interest. Your ship is impressive. The design is quite advanced. They walked through the corridors toward the conference room. Tae-jin noticed how the humans observed everything. Their eyes moved constantly, taking in every detail of the ship's layout, the positions of security cameras, the locations of access panels. It was the behavior of scouts studying enemy territory. In the conference room, Tae-jin activated the main display showing a map of the sector. "This is Valerian space," he explained. "We have controlled this region for centuries. Any ships passing through must follow our rules." Lieutenant Soo-jin leaned forward slightly. "What sort of rules, Commander?" "Standard requirements," Tae-jin replied. "Registration fees, cargo inspection, crew documentation. Nothing unreasonable for a peaceful species." The humans exchanged quick glances. It happened so fast that most species would have missed it, but Valerian eyes were sharp. In that instant, Tae-jin saw a level of silent communication that spoke of advanced military training. "I'm afraid those terms are not acceptable," Do-hyun said calmly. "Humans do not pay tribute to foreign powers." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Several Valerian officers shifted uncomfortably. No species had refused Valerian demands in living memory. Tae-jin felt his anger rising but kept his voice level. "Captain, I don't think you understand the situation. Your single ship faces an entire fleet. Surely you can be reasonable." Do-hyun stood up slowly, his movements controlled and precise. "Commander, I think you're the one who doesn't understand the situation." He looked directly into Tae-jin's eyes without fear. "You're looking at 3 humans and thinking we seem weak. You're looking at our ship and thinking it seems primitive. You're making the same mistake that many others have made." "And what mistake is that?" Tae-jin growled, his claws extending slightly. "You think that because we look peaceful we are helpless?" Do-hyun's smile disappeared completely. "You think that because our technology seems simple, we are not dangerous. But Commander, there's something you should know about humans." The human captain leaned forward, and for the first time, Tae-jin saw something in those small eyes that made his scales crawl with unease. "We didn't get to the stars by being weak. We didn't survive on our homeworld by being helpless. And we certainly didn't come all this way to pay tribute to anyone." Do-hyun straightened up, his voice becoming colder. "So let me be very clear, Commander. Your demands are refused. Your threats are noted and dismissed. If you want a war with humanity, you can have one, but I strongly advise against it." "Is that a threat?" Tae-jin snarled, rising to his full height. "No, Commander," Do-hyun said quietly. "It's a warning. You don't want to see what happens when humans go to war." Tae-jin laughed, but the sound felt forced even to his own ears. Around the room, his officers were silent. Something about the human captain's calm certainty was deeply unsettling. As the humans prepared to leave, Lieutenant Soo-jin paused at the door. "Thank you for the tour, Commander. We learned quite a lot about your capabilities." After they were gone, the conference room remained quiet for a long moment. Finally, Tactical Officer Si-won spoke up. "Sir, should we destroy their ship now?" Tae-jin stared at the empty doorway where the humans had stood. Something was very wrong here, but he couldn't figure out what it was. "No," he said finally. "Let them go, but track their ship. I want to know everything about these humans." As the Starfall watched the human vessel depart, Tae-jin couldn't shake the feeling that he had just made a terrible mistake. The humans looked weak, but they acted like apex predators. Their ship seemed primitive, but they showed no fear of superior technology. Most disturbing of all, they had studied his ship and crew with the focused attention of military intelligence, officers gathering data for future operations. For the first time in his career, Commander Tae-jin wondered if the Valerian Defense Fleet was about to face an enemy it didn't understand. War Chief Kethra slammed her clawed fist on the conference table, making the holographic displays flicker. Her orange scales darkened with anger as she glared at the assembled commanders. "These humans dare to refuse our demands?" she roared. "No species has challenged Valerian authority in 3 centuries. General Vartan, her strategic advisor, remained calm as he studied the data reports. His green scales were scarred from many battles, marking him as a veteran warrior. "War Chief, our intelligence suggests these humans may be more dangerous than they appear." Dangerous? Kethra laughed harshly. Commander Taejin's report describes weak, soft creatures with primitive technology. How can such beings threaten the Valerian Empire? Around the table, other commanders shifted nervously. They had all read Taejin's detailed account of the human visit. Something about the encounter had left the experienced commander deeply troubled. Admiral Sukho cleared his throat. War Chief, perhaps we should gather more intelligence before taking action. The humans' behavior was unusual. Unusual how? Kethra demanded. They showed no fear when facing superior firepower, Sukho explained. They studied our ship and crew as if planning an attack. Most concerning, they seemed confident they could win a war against us. Kethra's tail lashed with irritation. Confidence means nothing without strength to back it up. General Vartan, what forces do we have available? The scarred general consulted his tactical display. The 3rd Assault Fleet is currently on maneuvers. 50 ships with full marine complements, elite shock troops with the latest plasma weapons, and energy shields. Perfect, Kethra decided. Deploy the 3rd Fleet to human space. We will make an example of these creatures. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who defy Valerian power. 3 days later, the 3rd Assault Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Admiral Young Min commanded the fleet. From his flagship, the Devastator, his officers crowded around the sensor displays studying their target. Sir, reported scanner operator Jinho, we're detecting multiple human ships approaching our position. How many? Young Min asked. 12 vessels, Admiral. Similar design to the ship Commander Taejin encountered. Basic metal construction, minimal energy signatures. Young Min studied the tactical display. 12 primitive ships against 50 advanced warships. This would be over quickly. Signal the human ships. Demand immediate surrender. The reply came within minutes. It was the same human captain from Taejin's report, Do-hyun. His image appeared on the main screen, still wearing that unsettling smile. Admiral Young Min, Do-hyun said calmly, you have entered the Sol system without permission. Please state your intentions. Young Min couldn't believe the audacity. Human captain, you will surrender your ships immediately. Refuse, and we will destroy you. Do-hyun's expression didn't change. I'm afraid that's not possible, Admiral. However, I will give you one chance to withdraw peacefully. The bridge fell silent. Several Valerian officers looked stunned by the human's bold words. You offer us terms? Young Min snarled. You face 50 warships with 12 crewed vessels, and you offer us terms? 53 ships, actually, Do-hyun corrected politely. Our sensors are quite good, and yes, I'm offering you terms because I don't want unnecessary bloodshed. Young Min's patience snapped. Unnecessary bloodshed? Captain, you are about to learn why the Valerian Empire rules this sector. All ships, open fire. The 3rd Fleet unleashed its fury on the human vessels. Plasma beams and missile salvos lit up space in deadly displays. The Valerians expected to see human ships explode immediately. Instead, they watched in shock as the human vessels scattered with incredible speed. Their crude-looking ships moved with precision that seemed impossible for such basic technology. How are they so fast? Demanded Tactical Officer Chang Ho. Unknown, sir, replied his assistant. Their engines should not be capable of such acceleration. The human ships began returning fire. Their weapons appeared to be simple kinetic projectiles and basic energy beams. The shots bounced harmlessly off Valerian shields and armor. Ha! Young Min laughed. Their weapons are useless against our defenses. Close to boarding range, we'll take prisoners to show War Chief Kethra. But as the fleets closed, strange things began happening. Several Valerian ships reported system failures. Shield generators went offline. Navigation systems malfunctioned. Weapons arrays shut down for no apparent reason. Sir, Communications Officer Park Jin reported, the Crusher is reporting total system failure. They're dead in space. What? Young Min spun toward the officer. That's impossible. The humans haven't landed a single hit on that ship. The Thunderstrike is also reporting problems, Park Jin continued. Their main computer core has crashed. They're running on backup systems only. On the tactical display, young Min watched several of his ships going dark. The human vessels continued to dart between the larger Valerian ships, avoiding direct confrontation while somehow causing systems to fail. They're using some kind of electronic warfare, Weapons Officer Lee Sung concluded. But our systems are shielded against that type of attack. Apparently not well enough, young Min growled. All ships prepare for boarding actions. If we can't destroy their ships, we'll take them by force. The order went out across the fleet. Marines scrambled to assault shuttles, checking their plasma rifles and energy shields. Squad leader Hal Jin briefed his team as they prepared to launch. Remember, these humans appear weak and defenseless, he told his warriors. But stay alert. Something about this situation feels wrong. The assault shuttles launched from dozens of Valerian ships, racing toward the human vessels. The humans didn't try to stop them. If anything, they seemed to be positioning their ships to make boarding easier. Hal Jin's shuttle docked with a human ship designated Target 7. His squad of 20 elite Marines prepared to storm through the airlock. They had done this countless times before against dozens of different species. Breach in 3, 2, 1, Hal Jin called out. The airlock exploded inward, and the Valerian Marines charged through with roars of victory. They expected to find terrified aliens cowering before superior Valerian might. Instead, they found corridors filled with humans waiting calmly behind makeshift barricades. The humans didn't scream or panic. They simply opened fire with precise, coordinated volleys. Hal Jin dove for cover as projectiles filled the air around him. His armor stopped most of the shots, but the humans seemed to know exactly where to aim for maximum effect. Several of his Marines went down in the first exchange. "Return fire," he shouted, bringing his plasma rifle to bear. The Marines unleashed devastating energy beams that should have cut through human defenses like paper. But the humans had positioned themselves behind thick bulkheads and equipment that absorbed most of the damage. More disturbing was how the humans fought. They showed no fear, no hesitation, no emotion at all. They moved with mechanical precision, each defender covering others while falling back to predetermined positions. "They're retreating," called out Marine Kyung-woo. "No," Hal Jin realized, with growing unease. "They're leading us deeper into the ship." As his squad advanced through the corridors, Hal Jin began to notice things that didn't make sense. The ship's interior was much more complex than it had appeared from outside. Corridors branched in confusing patterns, rooms connected in ways that defied the vessel's apparent size. "Sir," whispered Private Woo Hyun, "this ship is bigger inside than it should be." Before Hal Jin could respond, the lights went out. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting everything in red shadows. In the darkness, they could hear sounds that made their scales crawl. Footsteps, many footsteps, moving with perfect coordination through the ship's corridors. The humans were repositioning, but how could they move so efficiently in the dark? "Night vision," Hal Jin ordered, activating his helmet systems. What he saw made his blood run cold. The humans weren't just retreating randomly. They were executing a complex tactical maneuver, using the ship's layout to surround the Valerian Marines. Worse, there were far more humans aboard than their sensors had detected. "How many defenders are on this ship?" Kyung-woo asked nervously. "Unknown," Hal Jin admitted. "Our intelligence was wrong about everything." The battle continued for hours. Every corridor became a fighting zone. Every room held new surprises. The humans seemed to know exactly where the Valerians would be at every moment. Most unsettling of all, even wounded humans continued to fight with the same cold efficiency. Hal Jin watched one human soldier, missing an arm and bleeding heavily, calmly line up shots that found gaps in Valerian armor with impossible accuracy. When the fighting finally ended, Hal Jin's squad had taken the ship, but at a terrible cost. Of his 20 elite Marines, only 8 remained combat-ready. Against supposedly primitive enemies, they had suffered 60% casualties. As similar reports came in from across the fleet, Admiral Young Min stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His forces had successfully boarded all 12 human ships, but the victory felt like defeat. The humans had fought like nothing in Valerian experience. No fear, no surrender, no braking under pressure. They had made the Marines pay for every meter of corridor, every room, every minor objective. Worse, the captured humans wouldn't talk. Commander Tae-jin stood in the intelligence briefing room, studying the latest reports from the human front. 3 months had passed since Admiral Youngmin's victory over the first human fleet. 3 months of increasingly disturbing news. "Show me the ship production data again," he ordered Lieutenant Yun-soo. The young intelligence officer activated the holographic display. "Sir, human shipbuilding has increased by 800% since the first battle. They're converting civilian vessels at an unprecedented rate." The display showed images that made Tae-jin's scales crawl, mining ships bristling with improvised weapons, transport vessels covered in makeshift armor plating. Even small personal craft had been turned into suicide attack vessels. "How is this possible?" Tae-jin muttered. "No species can militarize their entire civilian fleet this quickly." "There's more, sir," Yun-soo continued. "Intelligence reports indicate the humans are using a production method they call total war economy. Every factory, every shipyard, every manufacturing facility has been converted to military production." Engineering specialist Jin Woo stepped forward, his expression troubled. "Sir, I've analyzed the human ship modifications. The engineering shouldn't work. They're combining technologies in ways that violate basic principles." "Explain," Tae-jin demanded. Jin Woo gestured to the display showing a converted human cargo hauler. This vessel started as a simple freight transport. The humans added missile launchers, energy weapons, armor plating, and shield generators. By all engineering logic, the power system should overload and the ship should tear itself apart. But it doesn't? No, sir. Somehow they've made it work. They use jury-rigged solutions that shouldn't function but do. They patch incompatible systems together and create effective weapons platforms. Tae-jin studied the images with growing unease. The human ships looked like they had been built by scavengers in a junkyard. Yet intelligence reports confirmed they were surprisingly effective in combat. "What about their tactics?" he asked. Captain Soo-jin, recently returned from the front lines, answered grimly. "Sir, the humans don't fight like any species we've encountered. They don't seem to care about individual ship losses. They use swarm tactics, overwhelming our formations with sheer numbers." "Swarm tactics can be countered," Tae-jin pointed out. "Not these, sir," Soo-jin replied. "The human ships coordinate perfectly, but they don't use standard communication methods. Our intelligence teams can't intercept their orders or predict their movements." Jin Woo added more troubling information. "Sir, the humans have also deployed new weapon types specifically designed to counter our advantages." "What kind of weapons?" "Sonic disruptors that affect our hearing and balance, chemical agents that corrode our armor, electromagnetic pulses that overload our shield generators." Jin Woo paused uncomfortably. "It's as if they studied our biology and technology specifically to develop countermeasures." The briefing room fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were adapting their entire war effort to exploit Valerian weaknesses. "There's something else," Yun-soo said quietly. "We've intercepted communications suggesting the humans have deployed infiltration teams throughout Valerian space." "Infiltration teams?" Tae-jin's voice rose. "How is that possible? Humans are easily recognizable." "Unknown, sir. But supply convoys have been attacked with inside knowledge of routes and schedules. Communication arrays have been sabotaged at precisely the right moments to disrupt military operations. Someone is providing the humans with detailed intelligence." Tae-jin felt a cold fear settling in his chest. The humans were proving far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. What had started as a simple punitive expedition was turning into a real war. "Sir," Communications Officer Bong-soo announced. "Urgent message from War Chief Kethra. The human fleet has attacked the Kepler shipyards." The holographic display switched to tactical reports from the Kepler system. Tae-jin watched in horror as hundreds of human ships swarmed through the most important military construction facility in the sector. The attack footage showed human vessels using tactics that defied military logic. Small ships rammed into much larger Valerian warships at incredible speeds. Human fighters flew suicide missions directly into shield generators and weapons arrays. Others released clouds of some kind of metallic dust that seemed to eat through armor plating. They're not trying to capture the shipyards, Captain Sujin observed. They're trying to completely destroy them. But that makes no strategic sense, Taejin protested. Captured shipyards could be used to build their own fleets. Unless they don't need our shipyards, Jinwoo said slowly. Sir, what if the humans can build ships faster than we can? What if they see our facilities as competition to be eliminated rather than resources to be captured? The thought was terrifying. If the humans could outproduce the Valerian Empire while simultaneously destroying Valerian production capacity, the war's outcome was no longer certain. Status report on our fleet strength, Taejin ordered. Yoon-soo consulted her datapad. Sir, we've lost 37 ships in the past month. Production has slowed due to resource shortages caused by human attacks on supply lines. Current projections show declining fleet strength over the next 6 months. And human fleet strength? Estimated to be increasing by 50 ships per month, sir. Their production rate continues to accelerate. Taejin stared at the tactical displays, trying to comprehend what he was seeing. The Valerian Empire had ruled this sector through superior technology and military organization for centuries. Now they faced an enemy that was outproducing them while simultaneously adapting to counter every Valerian advantage. Sir, Bong-soo called out, incoming transmission from Admiral Young-min. His fleet is requesting immediate reinforcements. The main screen flickered to show Admiral Young-min on the bridge of his flagship. The veteran commander looked haggard and exhausted. Behind him, damage control teams worked frantically on smoking control panels. Commander Taejin, Young-min began. The human attacks are unlike anything we've faced. They don't fight to control territory. They fight to destroy our capability to make war. Explain, Admiral. They target our supply ships first, then our repair facilities, then our communication networks. They want to isolate and starve our fleets rather than engage in direct ship-to-ship combat. Young-min gestured to his damaged bridge. This morning, a single human ship, a converted cargo hauler, managed to penetrate our formation and detonate itself against our primary communication array. We lost contact with half our fleet for 6 hours. One ship caused that much damage? They're using tactics we never anticipated, Young-min continued. Suicide attacks, chemical weapons, cyber, warfare, biological agents, and they coordinate these attacks with perfect timing across multiple systems simultaneously. Taejin felt his certainty crumbling. Admiral, are you saying we're losing? Young-min was quiet for a long moment. Sir, I'm saying the humans are fighting a different kind of war than we know how to fight. They treat individual lives and ships as expendable resources in service of larger strategic goals. They don't seem to value anything except victory. The transmission ended, leaving the briefing room in stunned silence. For the first time in centuries, the Valerian Empire faced an enemy that might actually defeat them. Sir, Jinwoo said quietly, there's one more thing. Our xenobiology team has been studying captured human remains from battle sites. What did they find? The humans are from what they call a death world, sir. Every species on their planet evolved to be either a predator or prey. The humans were the apex predators. Jinwoo activated a display showing Earth's ecosystem. The images were horrifying. Creatures that existed only to kill other creatures. Environments so hostile that survival required constant adaptation and evolution. Sir, the humans didn't develop their military tactics in academies or training facilities. They learned them by being the most successful hunters on a planet where everything was trying to kill everything else. Taejin stared at the images of Earth's wildlife. Predators with efficiency and ruthlessness that made Valerian warriors look tame by comparison. And somehow, soft-skinned humans had not just survived in this environment. They had dominated it completely. That explains their tactics, Captain Sujin said grimly. They're not fighting a war, they're hunting us. The realization hit Taejin like a physical blow. The humans weren't trying to conquer Valerian territory or capture Valerian resources. They were trying to eliminate the Valerian Empire as a threat to their own survival. For the first time in his military career, Commander Taejin began to wonder, if the Valerian defense fleet was capable of winning this war. The humans were proving to be everything the Valerians were not: adaptable, ruthless, and completely willing to sacrifice anything for victory. As he watched footage of human ships converting even medical transports into weapons of war, Tai Jin realized they were facing an enemy that treated war itself as an evolutionary pressure. And in the harsh mathematics of evolution, only one species could survive. War Chief Kethra stood before the emergency session of the Valerian High Council, her orange scales now pale with stress. The holographic displays around the council chamber showed the devastating reality of their situation. "The human advance continues on all fronts," she reported grimly. "They have destroyed 17 major military installations, captured 4 core worlds, and eliminated over 200 ships from our fleet." Elder Council Member Damon leaned forward on his walking staff. "How is this possible? Our intelligence suggested these humans were primitive." "Our intelligence was wrong," Kethra admitted. "The humans deliberately appeared weaker than they were. Everything about their first contact was designed to make us underestimate them." General Vartan activated the tactical display. "The situation is worse than reported. Human forces are not just advancing, they're converting every system they capture into military production centers. Their fleet grows stronger while ours grows weaker." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. For centuries, the Valerian Empire had never faced a serious military challenge. Now they watched their territory shrinking daily. "What about our first Grand Fleet?" demanded Council Member Jinsu. "Surely Admiral Sung Ho can stop this human advance?" Kethra's expression darkened further. "The first Grand Fleet has been recalled to defend the Sol System approach. We cannot allow the humans to threaten the core worlds." "You're abandoning the outer colonies?" Elder Damon asked in shock. "We're conducting strategic withdrawals to defensible positions," Kethra corrected. "The humans cannot be allowed to reach our industrial centers." But even as she spoke, Kethra knew the truth was more desperate. The humans weren't just winning battles. They were winning the war through pure mathematical superiority. They could replace their losses faster than they occurred while steadily destroying Valerian capacity to build new ships. Admiral Sung Ho's face appeared on the main communication screen. The commander of the First Grand Fleet looked exhausted, his usual confidence replaced by grim determination. "War Chief," he reported, "we've completed the defensive preparations around Sol. Every available ship, space station, and orbital platform has been converted into a fortress position." "What about the asteroid field?" Kethra asked. "Armed and ready. We've placed weapons platforms on every rock larger than a shuttle. The humans will face a wall of firepower unlike anything in galactic history." The display showed the massive, defensive network surrounding Earth's star system. 1 million Valerian ships arranged in layered formations. Weapon platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt. The concentrated military might of the entire Valerian Empire focused on one target. "Surely this will stop them," Council Member Jinsu said hopefully. Admiral Sung Ho's expression remained grim. "War Chief, there's something else. Our long-range sensors have detected the human fleet approaching." "Size and composition?" Kethra demanded. "Unknown, War Chief. Our sensors are being jammed by some kind of interference field. We can't get accurate counts or identify specific ship types." General Vartan frowned at his tactical display. "Admiral, that shouldn't be possible. Our sensor technology is far superior to anything the humans possess. That's what we thought about their ship construction, their tactics, and their weapons." Sung Ho replied pointedly. "The humans continue to exceed our expectations in every area." The conversation was interrupted by urgent alerts from the sensor stations. Tactical Officer Young Sik's voice crackled over the communication system. "War Chief, we're detecting massive hyperspace signatures at the edge of the Sol system. The human fleet is arriving." The council chamber fell silent as everyone waited for the sensor data to resolve. When the information finally appeared on the displays, several council members stepped back in shock. "How many ships?" Kethra whispered. "Estimate 10,000 vessels, War Chief. Maybe more. The sensor interference is still affecting our readings. 10,000 ships. In less than a year of war, the humans had built a fleet nearly equal to the entire Valerian navy. The mathematical impossibility of their production rate was staring them in the face. "What types of vessels?" General Vartan asked. "Unknown configuration, sir. They appear to be using designs we haven't seen before. Larger than their previous ships, but with the same improvised appearance." Admiral Sung Ho's voice came through, the communications with forced calm. "All fleet units, this is Admiral Sung Ho. Battle stations, prepare for full engagement." The council watched in tense silence as the greatest space battle in galactic history began to unfold. The human fleet advanced in formations that seemed chaotic but moved with perfect coordination. Valerian ships opened fire at maximum range, filling space with deadly energy beams and explosive missiles. The humans responded with tactics that defied military logic. Instead of returning fire, they began accelerating directly toward the Valerian formations. Their ships moved at speeds that should have been impossible for vessels of their size and apparent construction. "They're ramming our ships," Admiral Sung Ho reported in disbelief. "The entire human front line is on collision courses with our fleet." The first impacts were devastating. Human ships struck Valerian vessels at near light speed, creating explosions visible across the entire system. But for every human ship destroyed, they seemed to eliminate 2 or 3 Valerian vessels. "This is madness," Council Member Jinsu gasped. "They're sacrificing their entire fleet." "No," General Vartan realized with horror. "They're treating their ships like ammunition. This isn't a space battle, it's an artillery barrage using starships as projectiles." The carnage continued for hours. Human ships approached from impossible angles, using gravitational effects and stellar phenomena to mask their approach. They emerged from asteroid fields, from behind planets, even from inside gas clouds that should have destroyed their engines. Most terrifying of all, human crews showed no hesitation about dying for their cause. Ships with critical damage continued their attack runs until they exploded. Crews trapped in damaged vessels used their remaining weapons to target Valerian weak points with suicidal precision. "Sir," reported sensor operator Min Jin, "we're detecting boarding pods launching from damaged human ships." "Boarding pods?" Kethra asked in confusion. "Their ships are exploding. How can they launch boarding operations?" The answer came from Admiral Sung Ho's increasingly desperate reports. "The human boarding parties are using their own damaged ships as cover for assault operations. They're converting exploding vessels into delivery systems for ground troops." On the tactical display, Kethra watched human boarding pods striking Valerian ships throughout the fleet. The pods were crude, improvised affairs that looked like they had been built in emergency conditions. Yet they delivered their human occupants with deadly effectiveness. The reports from boarded ships were horrifying. Human Marines fought with the same suicidal determination as their fleet crews. They showed no concern for their own survival, focusing entirely on causing maximum damage to Valerian ships and personnel. "Admiral," came a panicked transmission from the cruiser Thunder, "we've been boarded by human forces. They're not trying to capture the ship. They're trying to overload our reactor core." Similar reports flooded in from across the fleet. Human boarding parties were turning captured Valerian ships into massive bombs, creating chain reactions that destroyed entire formations. But the most disturbing reports came from the surface of planets within the Sol system. Human civilians were fighting alongside military forces, using improvised weapons and guerrilla tactics that turned every city into a battlefield. Commander Tai Jin, leading ground forces on one of Jupiter's moons, transmitted from his landing zone. "War Chief, the human civilians are indistinguishable from their military. Children are carrying explosives. Elderly humans are operating sniper positions. Every building contains hidden weapons and booby traps." "How can an entire population be militarized?" Elder Daemin asked in shock. "Because they're all soldiers," General Vartan replied grimly. "Every human is a potential combatant. Their entire species has been organized for war." The battle reached its climax when human forces deployed their most devastating weapon yet. Ships that had appeared to be destroyed suddenly reactivated, revealing that they had been playing dead while drifting into optimal positions. These zombie ships unleashed coordinated attacks on critical Valerian command vessels. Admiral Sung Ho's flagship came under assault from 6 human ships that had pretended to be debris for over an hour. All ships, Sung Ho broadcast on emergency frequencies. The humans have been planning this battle for months. Every move they made was calculated to position forces for maximum damage. As the First Grand Fleet began to collapse under the relentless human assault, Kethra realized the terrible truth. This wasn't just a battle. It was the culmination of an elaborate trap that the humans had been preparing since their first contact with Valerian forces. The humans had studied Valerian tactics, technology, and psychology with scientific precision. They had allowed themselves to lose early engagements to gather intelligence while secretly preparing for this decisive confrontation. War Chief, Admiral Sung Ho's voice crackled over failing communications. The fleet is lost. The humans have achieved total tactical superiority. Commander Taejin stood in the ruins of what had once been the proud city of Keth Prima, on his homeworld. The capital of the Valerian Empire was now a maze of broken buildings and smoking wreckage. Human ships filled the sky above, their crude appearance now seeming somehow more menacing than beautiful. The war was over. The Valerian Empire had surrendered after 18 months of systematic destruction that had left their civilization in ruins. But for Taejin, the real horror was only now becoming clear. "Commander," called out Captain Sujin, approaching through the rubble. "The human delegation has arrived for the surrender ceremony." Taejin nodded grimly. He had been chosen to represent what remained of the Valerian military leadership. Most of the high command had died in the final battles, and those who survived were too broken to face their conquerors. The human delegation descended from a converted cargo ship that looked exactly like the vessels that had nearly destroyed galactic civilization. But Taejin now understood that the crude appearance was deliberate, a psychological weapon as effective as any plasma cannon. President Jae-min led the human delegation, flanked by General So-young and a team of advisors. They wore simple uniforms, with no decorations or signs of triumph. Their expressions were calm and professional, showing neither gloating nor mercy. "Commander Taejin," President Jae-min said politely, "thank you for agreeing to meet with us." "The Valerian Empire formally surrenders," Taejin replied, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. "We request terms for our surviving population." "Of course," President Jae-min nodded. "But first I think you deserve to understand what happened here. Dr. Hee-jin, would you please explain?" A female human stepped forward carrying a data pad. She looked like a scientist rather than a soldier, but Taejin now knew that among humans there was little difference. "Commander," Dr. Hee-jin began, "we've been studying your species and your military capabilities since our first contact 18 months ago. Every engagement, every battle, every tactical decision provided us with valuable data about Valerian psychology and behavior." She activated a holographic display showing detailed analysis of Valerian battle formations, command structures, and strategic thinking. The level of detail was staggering. The humans had been dissecting Valerian military doctrine with scientific precision. "You studied us like laboratory specimens," Taejin realized with growing horror. "Yes," Dr. Hee-jin confirmed without apology. "That's what humans do. We observe, we analyze, we adapt, and we overcome. It's how our species survived on Earth for millions of years." General So-young stepped forward. "Commander, your people made a fundamental error. You assumed that because we looked weak, we were helpless. You assumed that because our technology seemed primitive, we were backward. Most importantly, you assumed that because we were peaceful, we were defenseless. But we never intended to be your enemies," Taejin protested. "No," President Jae-min agreed. "You intended to be our masters. When we refused to submit to your demands, you chose to make war on us. Everything that followed was the logical result of that decision." The human leader gestured toward the ruined city around them. "This destruction was not caused by human cruelty, Commander. It was caused by human efficiency. When our species fights, we fight to win completely and permanently." Dr. Hee-jin continued her explanation. "Commander, Earth is what we call a death World. Every species on our planet evolved under constant pressure from predators, diseases, natural disasters, and climate changes. Only the most adaptable survived. The holographic display shifted to show images of Earth's ecosystem. Taijin watched in fascination and horror as Dr. He-jin explained how every creature on the human homeworld was either predator or prey, often both simultaneously. Humans were not the strongest or fastest species on Earth, she continued. We survived by being the most intelligent and the most adaptable. We learned to use tools, to cooperate in groups, and to modify our environment to suit our needs. More importantly, General So-young added, we learned to treat every challenge as a problem to be solved rather than an obstacle to be endured. When faced with predators, we didn't just hide, we developed weapons to hunt them. When faced with diseases, we didn't just suffer, we developed medicine to cure them. President Jae-min looked directly into Tae-jin's eyes. When faced with the Valerian Empire demanding our submission, we didn't surrender. We developed methods to defeat you completely. The truth hit Tae-jin like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just fought a war. They had conducted the largest military experiment in galactic history. Every battle had been a test, every engagement a learning opportunity. You never intended to coexist with us, he whispered. We offered coexistence, President Jae-min corrected. Your people chose domination. Once that choice was made, our response was inevitable. Dr. Hai-jin showed new data on the display. Commander, during the 18 months of this war, human industrial capacity increased by over 2,000%. Our population voluntarily reorganized itself for total military production. Every citizen became a potential soldier. Every factory became a weapons manufacturer. How is such mobilization possible? Tae-jin asked. Because humans understand that survival sometimes requires sacrifice, General So-young explained. We can endure hardship, accept losses, and adapt to changing circumstances in ways that apparently your species cannot. The most horrifying revelation came when Dr. Hai-jin showed combat footage from the final battles. Tae-jin watched human soldiers continuing to fight with injuries that should have been instantly fatal. He saw civilian populations transforming entire cities into military fortifications. He witnessed technology being improvised and deployed in ways that violated every principle of engineering safety. Your people fought with honor, he observed. No, President Jae-min corrected quietly. We fought with determination. Honor is a luxury species develop when they don't face existential threats. Humans gave up honor millions of years ago in exchange for survival. The human leader gestured toward a medical station where human personnel were treating wounded Valerian civilians with the same mechanical efficiency they had shown in combat. This is what humans do, Commander. We identify problems, and we solve them completely. Your empire threatened our existence, so we eliminated your empire. Your people are now wounded and suffering, so we heal them and provide aid. Tae-jin watched human medics working alongside Valerian survivors. The same species that had systematically destroyed his civilization was now feeding hungry children and treating injured civilians with gentle professionalism. I don't understand, he admitted. Dr. Hai-jin provided the explanation that would haunt his nightmares for years to come. Commander, war and peace are just different tools for achieving the same goal, ensuring human survival and prosperity. We're as efficient at healing as we are at killing, because both serve our species' interests. When you demanded our submission, you became a threat to be eliminated, General So-young continued. Now that you've surrendered, you become a problem to be solved through reconstruction and integration. President Jae-min handed Tae-jin a data pad containing the terms of surrender. Your surviving populations will be relocated to reservation, worlds where they can rebuild their society under human supervision. You'll be provided with resources and technology needed for recovery. And in return, the Valerian species will never again pose a threat to human interests. President Jae-min stated matter-of-factly, your military capabilities will be permanently limited. Your territorial expansion will be controlled. Your contact with other species will be monitored. Tae-jin realized he was looking at the end of his species as an independent civilization. not through genocide or slavery, but through systematic and permanent subordination disguised as generous peace terms. "You're not destroying us," he said slowly. "You're domesticating us." "Yes," Dr. Hyojin confirmed with clinical detachment. "It's a more efficient solution than extermination, and it serves human interests better than continued warfare." As the surrender ceremony concluded, Tae-jin found himself standing next to human medic Yoon-ji, who was organizing relief supplies for Valerian refugees. Her movements were precise and methodical, showing the same terrible efficiency he had witnessed. "Inhuman warriors, why are you helping us?" he asked her. Yoon-ji looked up from her work with calm, calculating eyes. "Because healthy populations are more stable than sick ones. Stable populations cause fewer problems than desperate ones. It's more efficient to heal you than to guard against constant rebellion." The simple honesty of her answer was more chilling than any threat could have been. The humans weren't helping Valerian survivors out of compassion. They were solving a logistics problem with typical human efficiency. Years later, as Tae-jin wrote his memoirs in the quiet of his assigned quarters on Reservation World 7, he finally understood the true horror of what his species had faced. The Valerians had fought warriors and been defeated by scientists. They had faced soldiers and been conquered by engineers. They had challenged what they thought was a primitive species and discovered they had awakened the most successful predator in galactic history. The humans didn't fight like conquerors seeking glory or resources. They fought like evolution itself, testing, adapting,